So unfortunately, it does look like weather forecast models are coming into better alignment and better agreement, and our confidence is significantly increasing that we will have a second and very strong offshore wind event impact Northern California Saturday night, Sunday into Monday, and Southern California starting on Sunday and lasting into Monday. The National Weather Service, and I'll just read you a quote from one of their forecast discussions. They state that confidence is high that the strongest offshore wind event yet this season will take aim at a broad swath of Northern California late Saturday into Sunday. Internal confidence statistics indicate offshore winds on the order of 4.3 to 5.2 standard deviations above the normal. They go on to state that usually 3.5 standard deviations is falling within record territory. You can read that, and I encourage everyone to go to weather.gov for the latest information there. Our other agency partner that we coordinate with is Northern Operations Predictive Services. They are also indicating high risk due to very strong winds, low relative humidity, and dry fuels, and that critically dry fuel moistures are expected. So, so PG&E Meteorology and our data science teams continue to closely study the upcoming event, and we plan to put it, and we're trying to put it in historical perspective. We do think that it will be the strongest offshore wind event this season by a large margin, and if models are correct, possibly the strongest offshore winds that we've seen in years. One of the gradients and metrics that we track for storm events is what we call pressure gradients. And so this is the difference in pressure between two surface stations. One of the main ones we track for northerly winds is the difference in Redding and Sacramento. The bigger the pressure gradient usually correlates with more outage activity on our system. Right now, some forecast models are indicating a peak Redding to Sacramento pressure gradient above 10 millibars. And we've calculated that if a 10.6 millibar pressure gradient was achieved, that would roughly equate to a 1 in 15 year return period event. Right now we are forecasting widespread wind gusts with this event, 40 to 60 miles per hour in general over most of the elevated terrain of Northern California, with peak gusts in isolated locations 70 to 80 miles per hour. Some locations may gust higher. The map that I'm showing you on the screen is our internal outage producing wind index model. It was constructed with 30 years of high resolution wind data. Over 5 billion data points were analyzed to determine what wind speeds manifest across our service territory over the past 30 years, and it helps us put these events in historical perspective. And essentially what you're seeing on the map is that there is high likelihood of damage that will occur with this system. So I do expect to, based on wind speeds, based on everything I'm seeing, that this event will be a very serious event, and one we need to be paying very close attention to. This is on the heels of this storm event that we just went through. So surface fuels, fuel moistures will be much drier than what we saw in this event, and so that's another element we have to consider. I'll leave you with that. We do continue to closely coordinate with county, state, and federal forecast agencies. We're partnering daily on interagency calls, as I've mentioned in previous briefings. And I do want to close by personally thanking the National Weather Service and Predictive Services for, first of all, their excellent services that they provide to the public in general. And I do encourage everyone to, if you haven't, take advantage of those weather forecasts. They're all publicly available, and you'll see that they're very aligned with our thinking in PG&E Meteorology. And I do want to thank them also for allowing us to coordinate and come into alignment on this upcoming weather event, which will be a very difficult period for all of us Californians. So I'll leave it there.
So given that weather outlook, we're at elevated potential for PSPS, in 8 of the 9 zones in our service territory. That doesn't mean that the entirety of each of those zones will be without power, but we are preparing, and we're preparing with our communities and state agencies for a large-scale shutoff that has a potential to be on the same order as the one on October 9th, but of a longer duration. So earlier today, we began notifying customers in areas where potential shutoffs could start as early as Saturday. And those regions are the Sierra Foothills, North Bay, Peninsula, Central Coast, East Bay, and Humboldt. We've also started our notification process that starts with Cal OES, state agencies, counties, cities, and customers. Our protocol indicates we provide at least 48 hours notice, so we're meeting that protocol for this event as we did in the current event. We would then provide 24 hours notice and again 4 hours notice before a shutoff. So we achieved that in this event, and we'll do so in the next event. So in addition to the notifications, we're preparing in full force for this event. All that said, we continue to monitor the weather, and we'll incorporate any changes of that into our plans.